Do you think landlords should be open to being lenient on rent in a crisis like this, pending proof of lack of employment? Why? Why not? My landlord in Seattle offered to defer rent if need be. I like her. Seattle's mayor just banned evictions for the next month. Pointless. Trying to evict someone takes months and adds cost when you factor in any legal fees. That's just the mayor winning favor due to the public's ignorance. But I would hope it also means that any eviction processes that have already begun and may be nearing completion will also be delayed a month. Is that not the case? In Seattle? Yes, that is the case. Anyway, it's not like the courts or cops give a shit about serving evictions right now. My country did the same, but also froze all property taxes and mortgage for 3 months to pass coronavirus. Did they also freeze the interest on the loan or just payments? Yep, also the interest. It will just stop and resume after 3 months. For rent you are supposed to pay it, but if you can't you can get in contact with the government and they will cover it or negotiate to push the rent for 3 months like with loans. The landlord can't kick you out during this time. We don't have strong protection laws about the renters if you don't have a rental agreement. Also, they introduced laws to stop companies and individuals price gouging and medical producers exporting without a special permit just so there isn't any shortage on our country. First time is a massive fine, and if repeat you have to close for 6 months. The business and more extreme measure will follow. All non-essential businesses are to be closed. Clubs are live streaming the parties LOL. They also issued a weekend mandatory quarantine and ban on all personal cars. Friday to Monday all need to stay home. All work was cancelled. It's been crazy, but we are a small country and having 46 people confirmed is scary. Our government is very shitty, but they are handling this very well. Stay safe, people. Update. The government issued a new law that after 6 p.m. if you are outside you'd get fined. This is countrywide. Wow. Which country are you in? Stay safe. Albania. We were one of the last to get the COVID-19. All the infected people came from Italy or were in contact with someone that was in Italy recently. This would be a huge strain on our healthcare, so the government is taking extreme measure to stop the virus. My rent was due to go up $100 this month. Just got a notice on my door that due to the coronavirus, the owner of the property is delaying the increase for 2 months. It's not anything spectacular, but it's something and I appreciate it. That's really nice, honestly, smiley face. It is. It's a tough one. The landlord might not necessarily be wealthy and their own job might be in peril. Lots of landlords count on rental income to pay the mortgages on these properties or others also, so really any help they can offer is very much appreciated. The banks shouldn't be foreclosing on mortgages either though. We got a notice to vacate because the owner's son wanted to move in 6 weeks. Like 3 days ago. I mean, on one hand it's fine, on the other, finding houses is hard enough in the best of times. Add a virus on top of it. It's going to create all sorts of issues. I think you're entitled to compensation. Check up your real estate laws. Because in Canada you can't get kicked out unless you come to an agreement with your landlord. Almost certainly not. New Zealand has some pretty shitty rental laws, although the current government is slowly working on it. Think the notice period is going to be moved up to 90 days, instead of 6 weeks, to put it in line with other things. But it's totally legal, although kinda shit for us. I recently gave someone notice that I need a rental property for myself and my family by end of March 2021. 1 year to find a new place is plenty of time in my opinion, and the fricker is still taking me to court. Lenient on rent? My landlord is going to have people in and out of my apartment all week, trying to sell it. They're going to steal your toilet paper. It's entirely possible. Cough. Cough like you've never coughed before. Luckily the crack den next door usually quietens down by 4 a.m. The economic effects of this virus will be felt for a long time. Creating a wave of homeless people will not help the situation. Creating a wave of home foreclosures will not help either. If only there was an entity that was supposed to help citizens and prevent catastrophes like this. Yes, like a group of people that collect taxes and help all the citizens in the crisis. Not just the well-off or wealthy. I guess everyone is supposed to be rich, because that's totally possible. That tax money is for war. Keep your hands off. The government? Oh wait, they're for the megacorps now. It's the first thing I told my tenant. I am not rich by any means, but I won't starve if she pays 2 months late because of the crisis. Peace, I'm in Italy. The world needs more landlords like you. Thank you. She has a small kid I think is just the least human thing to do, smiley face. I am in France. We have a law here that forbids removing someone from the rented home during the winter months. Last week President Macron just extended the grace period for another 2 months. So do a lot of people just stop paying rent during the winter? Probably not. Since I imagine if you're 3 months past due come spring, your ass is getting thrown out. So if someone is already planning on moving out in the spring, I'm not sure what it's like in France, but in Australia you would get blacklisted and no major real estate rental companies would touch you. LJ Hooker alone has over 130,000 properties that they manage. You would find very few owners actually rent direct, and they may very well ask for a rental history or reference anyway. Depends on the bank. Landlords usually have the place mortgaged, so they need to pay the bank bi-weekly. If the banks would be lenient, then it would be possible for the landlords to be as well. Then you have to factor in monthly hydro, water fees are included in rent. Unless these companies are also lenient, then all this would be coming out of the landlord's pocket. And landlords aren't all megacorps. Some landlords own one property and are also eating shit on the monthly cash flow. Ask me how I know this? My landlord is a good guy and uses my rent to pay for his own mom's rent at her nursing home. He can't afford it otherwise, and my rent doesn't even completely cover his costs once you factor in taxes and insurance. My parents own property overseas, and in order to avoid landlords overcrowding apartments, you have to register all living tenants in the apartment. My dad decided to rent it out to a reasonable group of subcontinental workers because they face discrimination for, well, being from the subcontinent. Turns out they sublet to others, and now my dad isn't allowed to rent the property out for another 2 months, so no rent for 3 months, has to pay a fine, and has to renovate the plaza painting plus cleaning. This has put my parents in a lot of financial stress since they were using that money to pay for me and my sister's uni fees. What is the subcontinent? India. Disaster relief is the government's job, and no country should have to rely on the charity of landlords for people to survive. This is absolutely the correct answer. I'm not a landlord, but I am a small business owner, and if my employees need to take weeks off because they are ill, it will literally bankrupt the business if I choose to pay them that whole time, which I probably will. We should have a system in place that doesn't depend on the charity of landlord to avoid homelessness. When the shit hits the fan, some landlords will be lenient. Some won't be able to afford to do so. Some can, but won't help. But as a whole it won't make enough of a difference. I'm a landlord and fall into the won't be able to afford the category. I'm not a corporate owner. I simply started renting out my home when I moved out. The rent covers the mortgage and that's about it. I'm not making bank on this. Tenants don't pay rent. I can't pay mortgage. I could swing it for a couple of months maybe, but that eats thousands of dollars into my personal savings. Maybe I should be more generous. That's very possible, but it's all a lot more complicated than landlords are greedy. Although I'm sure some are. I've done my fair share of renting and some landlords suck ass. Everyone advocating for a temporary halt on rent is also advocating for a temporary halt on mortgage payments and interest accrual. It is kind of weird that someone has to suffer, and it will end up being the people who have the least. I would appreciate any business, person or company that makes an effort to split the suffering. I think this time is a bit different. You already see some strange companies stepping up with paid time off and other deferments, such as Uber and Walmart. I think it's because they realize they have to. Homeless people don't come back to work, much less shop. This entire situation is a big freaking deal, and the fact that gig companies are ponying up for contractors to take a break should tell you a lot in today's business climate. In the US, some 80% of folks are paycheck to paycheck. Most businesses and companies earn shit without 80% of the population who currently work suddenly dissolving. Everyone needs to realize we have to get through this with as much of us intact as possible, or we won't get through it. That includes your business, rental property, whatever else. I'm a landlord and live in the fourplex I own. I know one tenant will be fine. She works for a non-profit social service agency that will be in operation. I am really worried about the young couple we have. They just barely met the income requirement when we rented to them, and now they're expecting a baby in a few weeks. I really can't afford to not collect rent from them, so we've decided if he is out of work we will offer him some. One unit is currently vacant and being repainted, etc. The sooner it's generating income, the more relaxed I can be for them. A couple of weeks ago I went out and did a huge COVID-19 shopping trip. Toilet paper, canned goods, etc. I did plan to have enough to share if necessary. If my mortgage bank would give me a break, I would definitely pass it on. Because karma can be a bitch. People forget that landlords are people with bills and families of their own to take care of. They want to demonize them. because they have this idea that they should get a house for free just for freaking existing. But honestly, that's not how it works. Your house is a good that you pay for, just like food or booze or mechanics or whatever. My landlord is freaking struggling. He has been great to me in terms of rent increases. I pay the lowest in my building, because he understands I'm a single mom of 2 kids, but I still have to pay it. He owes a mortgage and property tax on my building. The city is freaking screwing him on taxes on the new building he built. He has mortgages plus property taxes on everything else he rents out, and his flow of income is never guaranteed. He basically has to trust that we'll come up with rent every month so he can make the tax and mortgage payments. Plus he provides free water to all his tenants, so he's footing probably huge water bills on every single property he owns. He's not a douchebag. He's not a demon. He's just a guy trying to make a living for his family in the real estate market.